me get that on your mic.
Hello, Jared! How's it going, my friend?
It's going really well, actually. Yeah, I'm just up bright and early, but not as early as you guys.
1 second, please.
You've got a
Jared, for people who might not know you, could you very quickly introduce yourself?
I certainly can. I can hear myself in echo, but I'll just talk through it. Essentially, I own JagaSilk with my wife Miu, and we're a matcha specialty company. Oh man, I can't.
You're getting speech jammed. Oh no.
Yeah.
Are you listening to the stream as well as the call? Because if you're listening to the stream, mute that and then just listen to the call.
I'm not listening to the stream, but I think it was put on for me when I was in the green room.
Okay.
But maybe they can turn it off. Hello. Okay, sorry. Awesome. Sorry. So yeah, I'm really stoked to be here. But yeah, JagaSilk, and I can't hear you guys anymore. Is been around since 2005. I can hear you now. And we've been visiting farms in Japan and bringing in teas direct from farmers that we visit, and then really focused on matcha green tea. And we've been on your show a few times.
Yes, you have.
And we're happy to provide you a tea and really enjoy being a part of, in our own vicarious way, what you guys are up to. But
no,
yeah, but
we definitely really appreciate that. And actually, I've got a really cool thing that you have you've lent us this year. Could we bring in the kuzen, please?
Ooh.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I thought while we're having the call, we could also make some matcha. And this thing is so cool. We'll set that up right there, and then run the power over to the back.
I don't know if while you're setting it up, if the audio team can fix this echo thing though, because it would be amazing. No? Maybe soon. Okay. The kuzen is essentially, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just take off my. So it's essentially a miniature version of my big mill that I brought in last time that I was on the show. So if you guys, I don't know if you remember, but a few years back, I brought on a big mill. I had my assistant who shares the same name as me, Jared, but has a different last name. And he essentially helped me to make you guys fresh matcha milled, straight from the machine. And we had a really fun time making that for you. And this year I thought it'd be really cool to show you sort of how we've kind of gone down that rabbit hole a little bit more and include you in the process virtually by having a little unit there called a kuzen that actually mills and actually makes the matcha for you. So you could say it's like a robotic version of myself. And your space there.
All right, well let me start this off right now.
And I can't hear you guys anymore either. I think it's either on or off the echo thing.
All right.
Either I hear you with echo or I don't hear you at all.
All right.
But there we go. Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, you ready for this, Jared?
So
this is for the benefit of the audience right now. We hit the button not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Ooh.
Amazing.
And then so probably the analogy a lot of people would be familiar with is this is an espresso machine. So we have a hopper at the top that is filled with tencha, and then we get it started. And I don't know how well you can see this right now, but we have a feed of tencha being turned. We have tencha being turned into matcha right now, and then we have water that is being spun magnetically at the bottom now. And so we've got 3 minutes, and we got ourselves a fresh cup of matcha. Now, obviously very different from somebody hand whisking it, but this is so cool.
It's pretty sweet, right?
So how did you get this?
So I actually signed up for a Kickstarter campaign. It was I saw it. I was kind of looking for some kind of home unit because I've been really getting into tencha. And I thought it'd be really sweet if I could provide tencha for people, but they just didn't really make anything that could mill matcha in a decent way. I mean, even the unit you have there isn't going to be as nice as the mega unit I have at the shop, but it's going to do the trick. And I got really excited about it. I signed up to sort of be a part of their first shipments. And then after I got it, they said that they wouldn't ship to Canada, and they
Oh,
just started
no.
shipping to Canada. Yeah. And I'm supposed to meet, I think, virtually with the owner, because that was part of the Kickstarter thing. But they were in Forbes and stuff, and they're like best 50 inventions in the world or something, or in the United States, I can't remember. But I was just really, really stoked to be able to basically have tencha at home. I drink matcha basically every day at work, but I really have no way of, I really have no way of not having my matcha get old, because it's such a fine powder, right? So it oxidizes really fast, and I drink it every day at work, but the stuff I bring home always gets this old hay flavor. I mean, if you have matcha at home and it smells like old hay and it looks kind of yellowish green, chances are it's oxidized. It's actually really hard to find fresh matcha. And so a way around that has been for us to invest in technology, getting mills here, getting the raw product, which is the tencha, that you then mill into matcha. And I mean, for those who don't know what tencha is, it's essentially the green, it's the tea leaves that have been steamed and then dried flat and then deveined and destemmed, and then you micro mill it into a powder that's less than 10 microns. So.
Now, I think this is actually an excellent segue. We will talk about the large machine behind you, the metaphorical elephant in the room.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, getting it started there. But before we do that, we want to talk about home matcha. You've actually donated a lot for us, for people who might want to make matcha at home. Do you want to talk really quickly about what is in a home starter kit? We could actually get that giveaway started. We could start seeing some of the donations come in and maybe hit the $9 million lifetime goal that we're working towards right now.
Wow. That would be amazing. Yeah, I'd love to be a part of that. This is essentially a sort of collection of different matchas that we've donated with a starter kit. The starter kit itself is it's got a bamboo whisk. It's made by apprentices of Living Treasure, Certified Living Treasure, who cuts bamboo whisks. 25 generations they've been cutting bamboo whisks, so that's over 500 years in the family. And there's also a bowl and a stand for the whisk. The teas that we've given you are a collection of our current series. We've gotten really into cultivars over the years, so instead of the norm where when you buy a Japanese matcha, it's from a Japanese tea company who in turn has bought it from a cooperative, who's in turn bought it from a farmer, and then the tea company's kind of blending it together and giving it a title and trying to go for year by year homogeneity. There is an opportunity here, I think, to be more like, what Napa Valley did for wine, where you start talking about varieties. And I love talking about varieties and understanding just like in apples, Gala apples and Granny Smith apples taste so different, even though they're both apples. The different varieties of tea taste so different. And then what we also got into is microclimates, like when you grow tomatoes in front of your house versus behind your house, they taste very different. So on those tins there, you'll have like Okumidori, Kukada, Okumidori, Shimoyama. Shimoyama is actually the name that the farmer gives to that particular part of their tea garden. And then Okumidori is the variety that they're growing.
All right.
And then when it says by Fujioka, that's the farmer.
I need you to pick 3 numbers for me here. And Carrie, would you like this matcha? Are you a matcha fan?
I'd love to try it.
Look at the face. All right, I'm going to pass you this.
Thank you.
And then we'll get Carrie's reaction to this, and then very quickly, I'm going to set up this giveaway so we can get it started. So Jared.
Yes.
I want to make this as accessible to as many people as possible, so we're going to start it for at least $5. But can you give me 2 other numbers that you think are relevant to tea? What do you think? Yeah. Or perhaps just this lot.
Why don't we say 3 and 4? It's just the numbers of letters in the word tea and ocha.
I love that.
It's a weird decision, but
no, that's great. 5:34 until 9 a.m.
Okay.
All right. Now you have been very patiently waiting for me to throw to you to explain what is happening behind us. That looks like a coffee roaster.
I know, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I was actually gonna lend you one of these. I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of the ceramic equivalent to what I'm working with back here. This lets you roast your tea, and I learned this more recently in my tea career. Like I said, we've been doing this since 2005. We read a lot of literature, we go to Origin, etc. But until quite recently, I didn't know that most of the sencha that we drink and the tencha that's milled into matcha that we drink has gone through a process called finish firing. That's really similar to coffee roasting.
Huh.
And so you see this unit here. It has an open front. Okay. I'm essentially baking the leaves so that they caramelize the sugars a little bit, and you get this really nice. You get this really nice sort of reduction in what they call a green heart, where it has kind of like a overly vegetal quality. It's reducing that and turning it into some sort of nuttiness. No, this is regionally specific. Most of the country does this, but in Kyoto, for example, they really don't like this process because they think it actually reduces florality. But I think that there's so much amazing opportunity here in Fukuoka and Shizuoka and most of the country. Again, they're taking tea that has been brought to about 5% residual moisture, and they're baking it just a little bit, and they're just working with this, the Maillard reaction of toasting something and bringing out sugars, something that you see in coffee. And it's so interesting. There's a really interesting idea of like being able to control the roast curve and get into understanding how holding the tea at certain temperatures is going to affect flavor in the end. And so what we do is we take that tencha, that deveined and destemmed leaf that's meant for matcha, and we get it to this place where it's right before it's finish fired, and we have the farmer send it to us. And this took many years of sort of encouragement and conversation.
Yeah, well, you're asking people to remove a step
in the process.
Yeah, so that you can control it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. but I mean, or participate, because I mean, I have great respect and I have no doubt that I suck at this. but I feel that if I don't start at some point, I'm never going to learn, right? And I am so blessed because one of the farmers that I work with, he's a coach for, say, like hand rolling tea. He's also gone to Shizuoka Tea University. He's very educated, and he's also really like enthusiastic, and he's super wanting to share. And so I had him in on like a virtual call, like kind of like we're having right now. But he essentially showed me how to set the RPMs. So I set it at 21.2 revolutions. And then, and that's not per second. I don't know what that actually means. Yeah.
You're the expert. Don't out yourself here. Yeah, 22, perfect. Yeah.
21.2. I'll just, yeah. He's kind of watching it, and he's like, yeah, that looks great. And I guess, see, if you increase it, the leaves, I don't know if you can't really see inside the unit, but if I were to explain it, there's like on the inside, there's like a ridge that kind of comes out, and it makes it so that the tea falls off the ridge and then it goes and keeps spinning, and this prevents the tea from just sticking to the sides of the roaster.
That's how
and having uneven kind of baking.
That's exactly how a drum roaster works as well in coffee, because what you don't want to do, if it spins too fast, you get contact and you get surface burning on the exterior of it. So you have sort of a combination of like a convective heat, which is the air running through it, and a conductive heat, which is the contact of the tea touching the surface on the exterior. So yeah, that rotation is really important. If it's too slow, it sits at the bottom. If it's too fast, it's almost like a ride at a fair where you're stuck to the exterior and you're like, ah! And the blades help sort of mix it all up and stuff like that.
And he told me the blade is a little bit too long. They call it a tooth in Japanese, but it's just that tooth's a little long, or a little too, it comes out a little bit too much so that it falls a little bit aggressively. But for tencha, that's okay because I'm going to mill it anyway. But for the sencha, that becomes a little bit problematic. It does sort of impact the appearance of quality of the leaf, even though the flavor is pretty magnificent. But it's been really interesting to learn that. And also, we have to take into consideration the drum temperature and the temperature of the tea. And when it gets to a particular ideal temperature, we then let it kind of sit there for a bit. So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to get it to 70 degrees centigrade. Once it gets to 70 degrees centigrade, it will toast for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then that's going to sort of develop flavors at that temperature before I turn up the temperature closer to 98, and then I'm going to drop it out of the drum as soon as the tea temperature gets to 98. And our goal is we try to get this done within 15-20 minutes.
Sure.
max.
Yeah.
But it can take a little longer or a little shorter depending on the ambient environment.
Yeah.
And I've had a local roaster, Sam Jones, came in and helped me a
Yeah,
little bit.
Sam,
Yeah.
legend in the Victoria coffee scene.
Right, yeah. And he just kind of gave me some thoughts on how I could better cool down the leaves afterwards, because he says the cooling process is really important.
Yeah.
And he roasts chocolate as well as coffee.
Amazing.
And then I've been able to pick brains of a number of different roasters that I know, and that's been really fun. I think there's a lot of parallels in coffee roasting.
My brain is already, because for people in the audience who might not know, I worked as a professional coffee roaster for 3+ years, and the time I was there. So yeah, I'm thinking cooling trays. Now, of course, a coffee cooling tray has like large aggressive metal fans, which would shred the tea. So you have to be very careful, because coffee is a lot more sturdy than tea is at this point. So yeah, I imagine cooling would be fascinating to try and figure out. Now, I actually have 2 questions here. One, I want to throw to Carrie. Carrie, how was that matcha?
That was really good.
Have you had matcha before?
Not a lot of matcha.
Okay.
Like very little.
Yeah.
But just the whole experience of it, from doing coffee tastings with you, the change in experience as my mouth adjusted to the flavor. Like it was very green and like verdant at first, and then it settled into a little bit more of the nutty flavor as I went through the cup and got used to it a little bit. It was really neat. Yeah.
Awesome. My microphone's right here, so I was going to make it for everybody, but I think unfortunately it's a little bit louder than when the Jareds have come in and hand whisked us matcha in the past.
Maybe we just set it up outside the room.
I set it up outside when Desert Buzz first started, and I thought this was going to be a novelty that I'd enjoy. Jared, this actually, we ran out of tea in the hopper within the first day, and then we've been going, this has been really popular with people.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. The question I wanted to ask you is, so when you started, you were getting matcha fresh milled for you in Japan, and then you're like, that's not enough control, I need to start milling it myself. And now you're like, I'm milling it myself, but I want to roast it. Are
you noticing a control pattern?
I was going to say, what is left in the tea process that you don't control yourself now? Because the level
a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I mean, if you think about it, I like to make it a comparison to what I'm doing is it's like getting your croissants par baked.
Okay.
So the baker's done all of the hard work, and then you just get to have fun with the very end, right? So essentially what's happened is Camellia sinensis is the name of the tea plant in Latin. It produces green teas, white teas, oolongs, crimson teas, black teas, etc. And what you're doing is you're controlling an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase that is going to be responsible for browning the leaves. And you're going to combine passive and active oxidation to create really interesting flavors. And to make a green tea, you want to actually pause the enzyme from browning the leaves as quickly as possible. So they harvest these leaves that they've shade grown, by the way, for 3 to 4 weeks to like really concentrate those flavors. The plant itself being an evergreen plant, they've harvested it after it's come out of its winter dormancy, so it's had all these months to just really focus volatile oils and concentrate flavors. And then they bring that to this factory that's going to steam them to deactivate the enzyme, keep it that vibrant green. They're going to dry it flat by putting it through all these different chambers. That it's like blowing like leaves in the air in this controlled chamber environment. And then that is going to go through this kind of conveyor belt system that pushes the leaves through sieves that are going to
important moment.
Let's not distract you too much here. Yeah.
No. But they push them through the they push them through these sieves, and then that breaks off the veins and the stems, and then it goes through the separation system where they put the lightweight leaves to the left, and then the heavier veins and stems drop into a right-hand compartment. And then they take the leaves and they put them, this depends on the factory, but some of them use electromagnetic technology and lasers, and they separate the leaves by their color pigments. So more vibrant greens will go into a different section than, say, more lighter greens. And then you get different grades from within the leaf itself, which is pretty intense. So the Japanese technology in terms of tea production is pretty next level. And then at that point, it comes out of the factory and it's called ara tencha. So ara means rough, so it's like a rough tencha. And then what most companies do is when they're ready to sort of rock and roll and get a tencha milled, they bring it to a secondary kind of processing facility that's going to turn it into shiage tencha. And shiage tencha, you could say it's like tencha that's ready to mill.
Okay.
And that is further cut into this kind of shape so that the leaves look like I don't know if you can see that, but right,
Okay.
that's the tencha.
So like pretty fine at this point. This is obviously
like
not a whole
nori that you
leaf,
would
right?
Sprinkle onto like takoyaki or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that that allows me to have this more a faster mill time. I have milled rough tencha before, and man, does it take a long time to mill. I think one of the reasons that they do this is it's a time saver, but it also gives you some consistency because then you're working with a very similar size particulate, right?
Yeah.
But at the very end of that process, when it's ready to mill, most areas of Japan are going to put it in a roaster like this or a tray roaster, and they're gonna finish fire it, and it makes it taste a little bit nutty. These are really low temperatures we're talking about, like 70 degrees and 98 degrees. Like in the world of, it's not really even roasting. You could even call this baking, really. Like it's
Sure.
It's a very low temperature.
So
That's so cool.
I want to use this as an opportunity to plug your giveaway again, because I think a lot of people underestimate how much work and love and care goes into really high quality matcha.
Right, yeah.
And they just think, oh, this is this green stuff that you can get at Starbucks, and now as a novelty, instead of my latte being brown, my latte is green. And let me throw really quickly again. So Jared is giving you a significantly higher quality, and it is more manual, significantly higher quality starter set for making matcha at home. You have the proper bowl, correct me if I'm, the chawan?
Yeah, it's a chawan.
So chawan is a matcha bowl. There's a chasen, which is a bamboo whisk. There are instructions how to do it. Correct me if I'm mistaken, Jared. There's also a link to your website where you have instructions on how to prepare it at home.
Yeah, and we have videos on YouTube and stuff that you can go and check out. So if you go on to youtube.com/JagaSilk, there's preparation instructions. If you want to make yourself a traditional matcha, which is the way I like to drink it, or if you want to have the fusion drink, the matcha latte, I think you can have fun with that. Just do as good a job as you can and go through it quickly. I mean, I think when we started the company, it was definitely one of the biggest challenges we had was that a lot of matcha was already oxidized before we got it in our hands. And that's true of most green tea because it's so fragile. It's a perishable good. It's not going to curdle like milk or something like that, and that's going to then hurt you in the same way. It's going to hurt you spiritually.
The experience lacks.
There's a very practical component too, in that when you have that flavor intensity, you also have more medicinal integrity, and you're going to get a more healthful experience. And matcha helps give you 6 hours of fatigue relief, mental clarity, helps with memory retention. It's really good for it produces alpha waves in your brain. It makes you feel kind of happy. You don't get addicted to green tea for the most part because of that L-theanine. The L-theanine's it's a tranquilizer, while the caffeine in it is a stimulant. So you kind of have a stimulant and a tranquilizer in the same beverage. And so it's why Zen Buddhist monks would drink this before meditation. It just really helps to kind of root the spirit, and you can have this really, I think, really focused experience with it. And it's really the main reason why I would I really wanted to come on to Desert Bus, and why this guy, like in the first place, would you guys have me on? I was so excited for you guys, but I was like, man, you're up like all night, and like, especially, so this is kind of like the perfect tonic for what you're doing, right? Because it's just going to give you that it's not going to be like a coffee that is amazing. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge coffee geek, but it is like a much shorter energizer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to talk.
As a coffee drinker, like the feeling off of that little cup of matcha that I just had is very different. It's both like energizing and relaxing at the same time, and it's a weird headspace to feel like I'm.
Coffee will give you one of these journeys, like a very big up and a very big down, and tea will sort of smooth that whole process out because of the L-theanine.
It's smoothed out, and there's this weird sense of well-being. It's just like right here, kind of.
I'm strangely happy.
It's bizarre.
I want to talk about freshness as well, because this is a parallel in coffee, which is to say not that something it's not spoiling, it's not milk. But the difference between when it's fresh versus when it's not fresh is night and day. But there's no wrong way to enjoy it. This is in no way to be like your tea is bad and you should feel bad. That's not what this vibe is about.
No, not at all. And I think that's important. I mean, I often say that it's important to do side-by-side comparisons when you learn something new and see if you can taste the difference or feel the difference. And if you can't, then it doesn't matter, because it's very personal, right? And if you can taste the difference and it's significant enough, then it's maybe make a change. And this is true for how I prepare my tea. This is how I prepare my coffee. This is how I store my tea. You know, cool, dark, dry place, protected from light, strong odors, moisture, heat.
Yeah.
You know, this is true with all spices. Your coffee, you know, in specialty coffee, there's the 5-second rule, right? Where you mill it and you got to prepare it within 5 seconds, and otherwise you're going to lose a lot of the beautiful aromatics. But how many of us, like I've had some fantastic coffees that are pre-milled or pre-ground for me, and for the most part, though, I love to grind my beans fresh. I get really into like good quality grinders and stuff, but yeah, with matcha, that's a harder one to do. And I think for a long time we wanted to mill our own matcha, but the traditional units they're $10,000 and they produce 40 grams an hour.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, kind of harder to really, and if we're going through a lot of matcha, selling a lot of matcha in a month, it got really like, okay, we can't really bring in a whole bunch of $10,000 units. We don't have the capital, and
Sure.
We don't have the space. And we actually got our hands after searching for quite some time. And I talked about this in a previous Desert Bus, but we were able to bring in a unit from a company in Japan that specializes in making tea equipment. And what it does is it mimics the plates of a traditional grinder, so that you get that round. It's like two plates on top of each other, and it turns like a flour mill. And that means that the specks that come out, the particulate that comes out actually under a microscope is round instead of square. So cool. If you use a burr mill, the specks under a microscope are square, and you can actually taste that going into your pores of your tongue. Whereas when it's round, you get a nicer texture. And so that is really important. And also there's a lot of friction that builds up, and that's why these really big units are in refrigeration.
Keep them cold.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fine. And then actually, Jared, one last thing. We are getting to run pretty quick to the end of the call here.
Sure.
Also, your giveaway is rocketing us towards $9 million lifetime.
Wow.
And we are absolutely going to lose it when it happens. And I want to make sure we have a chance to like shift from interview to that. So I just want to really quick to like plug your stuff, do a check-in. Is there anything else you wanted to say? And then we will give you a huge thank you so much for being a sponsor for so many years now at Desert Bus.
No problem. Yeah, no, I'm gonna put a coupon up there. Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear the end of what you said there. But Desert Bus 2022 is going to be a coupon code that's going to be up there by, probably right after this call. And I would say that try and, when you're drinking matcha, try and drink it fresh. It makes a big difference. When you open it up, go through it within 3 weeks. Don't look and stare at it and put it on a pedestal. We don't open up all of our wine and then try and, drink all of our new wines and leave the old ones like with little bits half open, but we do it with our tea. Don't do that. It makes so much of a difference to drink it fresh, and you'll feel it. It'll taste better. You'll feel better. And if you're careful, production dates. Production dates are more important than expiry dates.
Sure.
So knowing when your tea is produced makes a big difference. And yeah, we really endeavor to be super transparent. We try to share as much as we can. And those watching also, we do a YouTube show too. Actually, I'm on tonight. It's called JagaVision. We're
just like hang out, drink Thai, yeah.
With a fellow we call Dr. Midnight.
Very cool. Jared, thank you. I'm always blown away by all of your support. You go above and beyond what is expected of anybody here. I mean, you help. You help us so much. And thank you for calling in. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for geeking out. This is like very self-indulgent for me during Dawn Guard. I'm sorry, everybody. I just need to nerd out with my flavor friends for a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, amazing. And you guys are so great, and I love what you're doing. I'm happy to support. My wife and I are happy to support. Every year we just love it. So yeah, and huge just love for everything you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jared. Everybody in chat, lots of love. That was Jared from JagaSilk, longtime sponsor, longtime friend.